I just got a little lady saying that the meeting is being recorded. So right here, you will see that the two-step process includes and requires first the, well, not first in this order, but it requires two things. One thing is the payment of your annual bill. And so here you will see a copy of your annual bill. And what I'm flagging is the right top corner where you can find the APN, which is the parcel number, and where you can find the statement number. The second document is a copy of the current 2021 Rent Registry form. You'll notice that it is in a lavender color. The bill would have also been sent out with an exemption form. It doesn't apply to everyone, but do know that the bill does the bill gets sent out with these three items: the bill, the statement, and then we have the rent registry form. And then if applicable, for those of you, there's also the exemption form. When is this due? You will notice that annually it is due at the end of February. You should have submitted your exemption form, if applicable, by January 31st. Henry, jump in as needed.
Please, absolutely. So for this year, because the 28th is on a weekend, property owners are given until the 1st of March this year to submit your payment and your rent registry documentation.
Thank you, Henry. I should also highlight that not long ago we had a leap year, so it was due on the 29th. Then what are you going to get in return? For those of you who are renting, you will get a copy of the registration statement. This is the certificate for those of you that are renting out the units. This certificate will not be issued if both components of this process have not been met. Both components require, first, the payment of annual fees, and secondly, the completion of the rent registry. A pre-filled rent registry form is automatically sent out to you with your annual bill. There's also blank forms that we have. What I'll flag for you is that the one that you receive in the mail with the annual bill, you'll notice that it has this, what are these called? These bars here, a scanner.
Scanners, yeah.
Thank you. So that's the one that gets sent with your annual bill. But if for some reason it gets misplaced, or you're a new owner, or for whatever reason, we also have these blank forms right here that we can send out to you via email, or whichever way. But the point, we're because of the pandemic, we're really encouraging electronic communications. I'm sure everybody can understand that. And then I wanted to flag for everyone this item. We call it a cheat sheet. It basically has a bunch of questions and answers. So for example, for those of you that have a question about what to indicate for the number of bedrooms, if you have a studio unit, you want to put in a 0. For the move-in date for your tenant, if you don't remember, select I don't know. And I'll leave it to you to read this at your leisure. I just want to flag for you that we do have some Q&A for your easy reference. And Natalie, jump in as needed, but it's my understanding that our constituents will receive a copy of this information. This process can be completed online. Again, it can be completed online. And we also can do this via US mail. But again, I hope everybody hears me. Both of these items can be completed. The entire process can be completed online. And of course, we're encouraging everybody to do it online, if possible. I'm flagging here, and throughout the presentation at the bottom, you'll see, go to registerlarent.org. Again, go to registerlarent.org. That will take you to both of the portals that you need to see. This first one is the billing portal. And we also have the Rent Registry portal. You use the same information, email and password to log in for both of these portals. First-time users are going to see a screen that looks something like this, just for you to familiarize yourself. Sorry, just a second. My system is stuck. There we go. Go back and forth. Okay. So once you're logged in, you can start adding properties. And you'll also see some quick Q&A here as well. It might be helpful just for you to peruse through this information. Some of it is just repeat information that we have throughout the system. And then what you want to do is add your property. Remember at the top of the presentation, I flagged for you your bill. Your bill, I flagged for you, there's an APN and there's also a statement number. You're gonna need that information handy when you log in. And then you wanna identify yourself as either the property owner or a representative. You'll come to a screen that gives you the information at a glance, emergency contact information, which is required, your property information, your APN, your address, the total number of units, a bit of information here with regards to what you would owe the billing department based on what you're submitting to us. And then you'll see for this property had 3 units, 1, 2, 3, and it would show their address, and then the owner would need to come in and fill out the rent rate, the number of bedrooms, move-in date, so on and so forth. I'm flagging here, there's an add button. You want to select that in order to add. Here it would be the emergency contact information. And for emergency contact information, it does not have to be the agent. I'm sorry, it does not have to be the owner of record. It could be the owner's adult child, or just the owner's agent or property manager. We've had the owner's spouses submit the paperwork. So it could be whoever you decide number one, to be the emergency contact person, and then also to submit the form for you. At a glance here, you're going to see the type of information that we request about the emergency contact. And throughout the portal, you'll notice in red asterisks the information which is absolutely required in order for you to move on. And you'll see the same thing in the billing portal as well. Rental unit information here, you can edit or delete. We're super maximizing the size of these buttons so that you can see it more easily here. On your computer at home, it might look a little bit smaller. The unit information online looks a little bit different than what you might see on your hard copy form that you received in the mail. However, the required data is still the same. You'll notice the address fields that are indicated as a necessary report item, the monthly rent, again, the number of bedrooms, the move-in date. And then here, for those of you that just don't know when your tenant moved in, you select I don't know. We also get another common question that we get is the last effective rent increase. Some owners don't know. If you honestly don't know, go ahead and select the I don't know bubble. For those of you that are interested in downloading information for your archive, for your personal records, there's that feature. You can download the form for your archives. This right here, for those of you that are familiar with Excel features, there's a CSV sheet. And you can fill out the data for all of your rental units with this CSV sheet.
Hi.
You'll notice it looks like an Excel spreadsheet here. And so this is recommended for those of you that have properties that are larger, perhaps a volume of say 10 units or more. We would suggest perhaps you might want to do it this way. And then also, you would want to go in first to do one line item. Try entering one line item all the way across.
May I add something, Araceli?
Oh, yes.
Hi.
Everyone, this is Mariela. She's my colleague. And go ahead, Mariela.
Hi, good afternoon. So what I wanted to add is that the CSV sheet is very important for the properties that have a lot of units. Instead of going to the website and try to complete one by one, because sometimes the system kicks you out, just go ahead and download the CSV sheet. But don't download it just yet. First, go to add a unit, complete the unit's information box. And once you have the units in that one, once you complete that for one unit, then go ahead and download the CSV sheet, because this is going to give you the chance to see how the sheet wants you to input the information. You will see the formatting that the sheet needs you to input all the information requested. So once you do that, the CSV sheet is not only used to be storing your information for future years, but it's actually an easier way for you to enter all the information and upload it. For instance, if you have multiple properties, you can add all those properties on the system and complete one CSV sheet per property and then upload everything. So this CSV sheet is recommended for properties or owners who have multiple APNs with a lot of units. And
Thank you, Mariela.
If you always have questions or get stuck, you can always give us a call and we can guide you on how to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariela, for clarifying. So to bring it full circle, Mariela was explaining that all of you tried doing the data entry on one line item alone, and you would do that first by entering the unit information for, say, unit number 1, and then try populating it with the CSV sheet so that you can know what to expect for all the data fields. And then for those of you familiar with CSV sheets, again, this is probably those of you that have high volume units, you would upload it and then it would get populated into the Rent Registry. The this slide here is just to highlight all the data and where it goes. Let me try to minimize this. You'll notice that emergency contact info goes here. You can add property here. You'll have one APN showing here. You should see number of bedrooms for all of your rental units. And in theory, you should have, unless an exception applies, you should have a rent rate reported for all of your rental units as well. Here we go. So part of the awesomeness of the online process and the online process altogether is that it's a one-stop shop. You can add multiple properties in one account, and basically they're identified by their APN. I like to say that the APN is akin to a social security number for a property, for a parcel. So each one is identified by their APN, and again, each of them is going to show the necessary fields that you've entered. You, landlord or your agent, you want to make sure that you entered all the information for all the units at the property, because you want to make sure that your rent registry is in a status which is complete, so that you can receive your rent registry. When you're done with all the APNs and all of the unit information that you entered, you can still you need to verify and click on save and continue. Mariela has shared with me they get a lot of questions because people can't find this button sometimes. And so in this presentation, you will see again that a lot of this is maximized. The size is bigger, but on your computer screen, it might look smaller. And hopefully this is enough information for you to identify it at your home computer. One of the things you want to make sure you see is that you get this this box after you press save and continue. This is, again, it's a really big screen, but this is all the information that you just entered. If you were to need to go back to basically change something and edit it, basically if you found there's an error or you come to find out that there's a typo, there's a small little button here that says go back. And I would encourage you to do that. There's another very small little button here or box here. You want to indicate and check it off and say that all information entered is true and correct. You want to do that. And then down here at the bottom, you want to click on submit. Henry, do you think that's okay to see? You want to?
Also,
I think we're good.
I am so sorry.
Also, that's okay, Mariela, go ahead.
That little box that you check off, it's your actual signature. So once you click on that, that is it. You're submitting all your information. So before that, just go ahead and make sure that everything is correct and true. To your left, you'll be able to press on the print button and you can print all the information that you have submitted. So that's best if you want to keep your hard copies with you. You print a copy of all that stuff, save it, and then you go on and click on that little box. That's your signature, and submit.
Thank you for that, Mariela. Okay, let me minimize. Moving on. We're almost done. Here you're declaring under penalty of perjury that this information is correct. You're submitting it and consider it done. You'll see a confirmation number here, ABC, XYZ, to confirm that it's been completed or at least submitted. And then assuming that everything is done correctly and that the registration gets paid appropriately, that there's no issues with your annual bill having been paid in full, and if the rent registry gets completed online, in a perfect world, it's a lot quicker for you to get your registration statement, your certificate. And I'll let Henry talk about that in a bit. You'll also notice that we have a link or some information here for the billing department, which is Henry's team. They also have a YouTube video for what they do, and they have their own web address here. And then also I wanted to flag for you that we have at the very end a phone number for all of you to call us if you have questions about completing the rent registry. We have this number, 213-928-9150. And then we also have this email address, hcidla.rentregistry@lacity.org. If you are to reach out to us, it's really important that you have your APN ready. If you email us, one of the best things you could do is indicate your APN in the subject line. And then it's also secondarily very helpful if you indicate the actual, like the mailing address of the property, especially if you know that your property is like on a catty corner or it has an AKA address, and usually landlords know. So if you flag that for us, we really appreciate it. It helps us better assist you. And with that, I will stop sharing and pass the baton to my colleague, Henry Marentes.
Thank you, Araceli.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we're going to go over a couple of things today. The first item that we're going to go over is number one, for property owners that don't want to, they maybe are out of town, they have a family member that's going to go ahead and pay a bill for them. There is the option of doing what we call quick pay, right? Where you don't have to enter a ton of information. All you do have to enter with any of the pages that we're going to go into, crucial information as Araceli mentioned before, your APN number and your statement number. Always make sure you have that, right? You will be visiting the online portal, which is HCIDLA Now, you would go ahead and enter the APN, enter your statement number. The first thing it's going to do is show you the invoice or invoices, right? If there's more than one invoice there, kindly check off on the one you're trying to pay. For example, property owners that still have an outstanding bill for 2020, if you want to pay for 2020 and 21, go ahead and check it off. But like in this situation, the scenario that we're showing here, and let me make this a little bigger, it specifically referenced 2021 bills. So you'll go ahead and click pay. It'll push the items in your cart. It'll give you a total. Always review the total, please. I'll go into temporary exemptions later, but the quick pay function is typically used by property owners that rent 100% of the property, okay? So as I mentioned before, the total amount will be noted there. Go ahead and click pay now. Then it will take you to the method of payment. The department does accept credit card, debit card, or an e-check. With e-checks, you do have to be mindful that it takes anywhere between 5 to 7 business days to process. So make sure that you do have enough time for that e-check to go through, okay? It'll go ahead and request the information, credit card information, the cardholder's information. You'll kindly enter all that good information, including the expiration year, expiration month, the CVV number. You will hit next. Then it'll show you a pre-confirmation number, okay? Make sure that all that information there is correct. Once you see that it's correct, kindly click on finish. It will then give you a confirmation. It'll tell you, thank you for your payment. It was processed. You'll see here the confirmation number. One of the things that we at times get from some of our constituents is the following. I went online, I tried to pay with Quick Pay. I don't have a confirmation number, but it went through. If you don't have a confirmation number, that means it did not go through. So please try it again. Okay. The next item I'm going to go into is for property owners that have never registered their property with the system. So you want to set up an online account to go ahead and do a couple of things. Gives you the option to do a temporary exemption. For example, if it's an owner-occupied unit, or if it's a unit where no rent is being collected, let's say you have a mother-in-law that you're not collecting rent from, then you do have the option to identify what we call a T3, which is a no rent collected exemption. So I'll start going into those right quick. So I mentioned before, you'll go onto the website that I mentioned. It's going to be like any Google account, any Amazon account. It's going to ask you for an email address. You're going to enter a password. You're going to click on first time use registration. Once you do that, it'll walk you through a few steps on what to do. Again, crucial that we have that APN handy and that statement number, so the system can be able to populate what property you're referencing. Once you enter your applicable information, and let me make this a little bigger, so let me go over here. It'll ask you basic information, first, last name, an email address. You'll set up a password, okay? This is a very important part, and we do get a lot of calls regarding this. Make sure you check off, I'm not a robot, okay? Also click on the, and I'll make this a little bigger, click on the I agree with the terms and conditions. It will not let you go any further if you do not click on both of those. So please make sure you do that. Once you click on that, you will get a confirmation thanking you for signing up to the online portal. An email will be sent to you from the department, okay? And it's gonna look exactly like this, okay? Kindly click where it's telling you to click here to activate. If you do not click there, it will not activate. It gives you up to 24 hours to activate that account. Let's say you're in the middle of something where you can't complete the registration, it'll give you 24 hours to do so. Just make sure you go back to activate it as soon as possible. Once you do that, it's going to take you to this screen. Now, please disregard this part where it says test. That was just done on our own end for testing purposes. We didn't want to get a live account and potentially impact that account. So disregard the part where it says test. So you'll go ahead and click on login. You'll see that it already gives you the email address you provided along with the password. It'll be starred out so you can't see it. After that, what you want to do is you want to add a property. Now keep in mind, this gives you up to 50 different properties that you can add. So you would just continue to add more properties on this part here. And let me move this over. You would go to this area where it says add property. You will just continue to add as many properties as you want, up to 50, like I mentioned. Okay. So once you add the property, the bill's going to come up. Again, it's going to ask you for that APN number, that statement number, and you're going to kindly click what your relationship is to this property. If you're the property owner, go ahead and click owner. If you're a representative, kindly click owner representative, hit add. Once you do that, you'll see the actual bill itself, right? It's going to look a little different than your hard copy, as we've talked about before, but look at your information, right? The property address, the parcel number, make sure that matches, okay? Then it's going to give you a dollar amount. Now keep in mind, one of the common things that we'll also get calls from constituents is the following. They'll say, Henry, I'm being billed for 4 units. I only rent 1 of them. Okay. It's always going to give you the total for the number of units that are on the actual lot itself. But it doesn't mean you have to pay that, right? But you do have to declare your exemptions accordingly. Okay. So let me go to the next step, which would be to apply for exemption. I know that that's a very common question we get. And to reiterate, we want to submit any temporary exemption first for 2 reasons. Number one, when you submit a temporary exemption, the dollar amount automatically changes. So for example, you have a duplex there, it's being billed for both the SCEP program and the RSO program. That bill would be $164.14. Now, let's say you live in 1 unit. We're not telling you pay that $164.14. Submit your temporary exemption. Once you submit that temporary exemption, the dollar amount will change. But the scenario that we're utilizing here is when it's 100% exempted. For example, owner-occupied unit, the other unit being a non-rental because family lives there, right? So again, you would go in like you normally do with your login. You will then go to the part where you're requesting an exemption. You would click on this. Once you click on that, hit next. You will enter the year that you're trying to exempt, okay? So for example, if it's 2021, then it'll have the drop down for 2021. Now, if payment has been made already in advance, 100%, it's not gonna give you the option to exempt anymore. Again, we have to do the exemption first before we make any type of payment. So the next option or the next step that you would take is it automatically gives you the unit identifiers here as I'm showing here. You'll kindly let us know what type of exemption you're requesting. If you're requesting an owner-occupied exemption, or if you're submitting a no rent collected exemption. Now, for owner-occupied units, if there's only 1 person on title, the system will not allow you to do more than that 1 owner-occupied exemption. So make sure that it is submitted accordingly because it will reject it. If, again, for example, only 1 person on title and you're trying to submit 2 owner-occupied exemptions. Once you do that, you will verify, okay, by hitting next. You'll kindly check off this box here where you're declaring that the foregoing is true and correct. Like Mariela had mentioned before, that's basically your signature. You're attesting that the information noted here online is correct. You will submit your exemption request. Again, it will take you to this part where you have to click OK again. Then it'll reference that it's been processed successfully. It'll give you a reference number. Keep this as a copy for yourself, okay? This was for 100% exemptions of that property. The next one that we're gonna go into is the most common one, where it's a combination of both exempted units and units that are in fact rented out, okay? So same thing, we would go to our normal signing in, entering our information, enter your applicable exemption first, right, before you make any payment. Now, one of the things that unfortunately does get mixed in at times is the following. Property owners would tell us, well, you know what, the tenant just moved out a few weeks ago. My intent is to fix it up, clean it up, fix a couple of items that are damaged, then rent it out, right? One of the things I always recommend to property owners is the following. If your intent is to register it or rent it that calendar year, go ahead and pay your fee, right? Because one of the things that we have to take into consideration is the following. If you as the property owner, for example, have a duplex, you live in one, the other one, the tenant just moved out. But, you know, there are some damages that you have to fix. You don't know how long it's going to take you. you do have the option to say, you know what, I'm not collecting rent in that unit right now. But it is the owner's responsibility to inform the department once you start demanding or collecting rent. So you have 10 calendar days to do that. If you don't do it timely, you do run the risk of getting assessed a delinquent amount. So keep that in mind, take that into consideration. We're not really going to tell you how to run your business as far as if you want to avoid paying that the fee for that unit at that time. It's at your discretion again. So as I mentioned, you'll go ahead and enter the applicable type of exemption. You'll hit submit the exemption. Then you'll see that the dollar amount changes, okay? Once the exemption has been processed successfully, the dollar amount changes like I mentioned before. You'll go ahead and make the applicable payment with the payment method that is going to work best for you, whether it's a credit card, debit card, or an e-check, okay? So once you enter that information of the payment itself, it will basically ask you to confirm the payment itself. So again, it gives you the information that's related to the method of paying, which is the credit card information also. So once you do all of that, you'll hit finish. You'll see a confirmation, right, that your payment went through. Now, then you can go to the part that Araceli spoke about earlier. Continue with the Rent Registry. You'll enter all the applicable information there, okay? One of the things I always suggest to people is the following. Make sure that you see that your shopping cart shows a zero balance, right? So what does that mean? That means that your exemption went through, and that means that your payment went through, okay? And I'm going to show you another screen, which is just for additional services. This will include a couple of things, okay? Number one, there are at times situations where delinquent fees are assessed because the property owner didn't pay timely. Now, at times we'll get calls from constituents that will tell us, hey, you know what, I got assessed a delinquent amount. I don't think this is fair. What can I do about it, right? So the department does have what we call a fee waiver, an administrative fee waiver. So you'll go ahead and go to those applicable additional services. Another type is when there's an overpayment. Our accounting department does have a link here where you can submit a refund form, as we call it. Now, after you do your rent registry, after you've done your payment, all of that good stuff, there's also the option to get that RSO certificate. So that pretty much wraps up the items that I had to share with everyone. So thank you.
Thank you, Henry and Araceli. So before we move into the question and answer portion of our seminar, we do want to let you know that we have an evaluation form that we would just really appreciate if everybody could take about 5 to 6 minutes to fill out. It's very simple. I'm going to go ahead and launch that now. Give me just a second.
A lot of questions in the chat, I see. Wow.
Yes, so we will be allowing everybody to unmute themselves in just a moment after we launch the poll, just so that way everybody can have their questions addressed, because I know we did have a lot in the chat.
Right.
Not in this meeting because I am unable to launch the poll. It looks like I'm, give me just a second.
Sure, no problem. While you're working on that, Natalie, one of the questions that I saw immediately from one of our constituents is, what if we haven't received a bill yet and qualify for an exemption? Can we do everything online? What I would encourage you to do is call our billing hotline, which is the 6873 number, because there has to be a reason why a bill has not went out. But just the most common would be that the mailing address that we have on file, we maybe got the mail returned back to us. There was some type of issue with it, right? So I don't want to speculate, so kindly give us a call at the 877-614-6873 number that I mentioned. Give us your parcel number, and we'll be more than happy to look up why you haven't got a bill yet.
Sorry, technical difficulties. Just bear with me. Just give me a couple more minutes. Henry, if you want to go through the chat and look at like the last couple billing questions, we can take care of some of the chat questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Natalie. I will do so. Mariela answered a lot of these already, so thank you, Mariela.
Yeah, Mariela was on it answering through the presentation.
Yes, she was.
Oh,
Those were the fingers that I was hearing just typing away.
thank you. I'm sorry.
So what? Well, one of the questions that I saw and that I think I covered a little bit about was vacant units, right? Keep in mind, there's no proration of the units themselves. So one of the things that I always suggest to property owners is the following. If your intent is to rent it, you do have the option of paying for that registration itself, right? Some people will say, you know what, Henry, I don't have the money to fix it. I know I have to fix it. It's just going to be vacant all year. Then go ahead and submit the no rent collected. There is another type of temporary exemption that we call an S5. That is more intended for property owners that are actually going to vacate the entire building, secure the whole structure. There's a lot more requirements where you have to get something notarized, you have to get something recorded with the county recorder's office. That's a lot more work, but again, I would encourage you to do a temporary exemption under no rent collected if that's the situation.
Thank you, Henry. I do believe that the poll is launched now. So if anybody could confirm that for me. Yes. So it should be, you should see on your screen as well in green, poll in progress. You can click on that if it didn't pop up for you, and just go ahead and fill out, I believe there's about 7 questions. Super simple. So I'll give you guys about maybe 3 to 4 minutes to just go ahead and fill that out, and then we'll go ahead and move into the question and answer where we will allow everybody to unmute.
Sure. And I'll keep on going through a few more questions, Natalie, that they had. One of our constituents asked if there's a fee if you utilize a credit card for payment. There's no fee on the department's behalf, but I would encourage you to check with your credit card. The city doesn't charge additional funds for utilizing the credit card. So one of the questions that another constituent asked was the following: will the bill amount going to be automatically corrected if it shows 2 units billed on the mailed amount? And then there's an exemption for 1 unit. If you're going to be doing both your payment and your exemption online, like I mentioned before, kindly submit your temporary exemption first. Then the dollar amount will change. You'll see that immediately. The only kind that won't process immediately will be if you have to submit any additional paperwork. But the most common ones being those temporary exemptions, which are owner occupied and no rent collected. It's more of an honor-based system. You're checking off that little square that is accurate information. So we will process that exemption. So the dollar amount does change automatically once you do that. So someone else asked, when are the temporary exemptions due by? Are they due by January 31st or by the end of February? The response to your question is they are due by the 31st of January.
And they're due on the 31st of January for the exemption application only.
Correct. Correct.
And so to continue on the question, both due dates are valid. January 31st would be the due date on that exemption to be submitted to billing department. And the end of February is still the catch-all due date for all fees and for the rent registry.
Now that you bring up the fees, Araceli, thank you. One of the things that I always encourage property owners is the following. Don't run the risk of sending in your payment if you have a few days left before that amount becomes what we deem to be delinquent, right? Go online. Don't wait last minute. If you did for any reason, pay online. Don't mail in that payment. You don't want to run the risk of a potential assessment of delinquent amounts. The delinquent amounts are very high. So I don't think anybody wants to be put in a situation where now delinquent amounts have been assessed, right?
Right. And then I saw a question or two on the topic of how do I know if I need to do these tasks? Basically, you're wondering if you need to pay the annual bill and you're wondering if you need to complete the rent registry. And so the answer to that is, firstly, if you received the annual bill with all of these forms in there, then yes, you are being called upon to fulfill these requirements, the rent registry and the payment of annual fees.
Okay. Another question I saw from one of another constituent is they note that in the past, the temporary exemption page has also needed to be notarized. How will that work this year? Anything that gets notarized would involve more than four temporary exemptions, I'm sorry. So let's say it's a combination of one temporary exemption for owner occupancy and two, no rent collected. You don't need to get it notarized. The only time you need something notarized is if it's more than 3 no rent collected temporary exemptions. That's the only time you need to notarize it. Now, if the situation hasn't changed from 2020 up until now, you do not need something new to get notarized. Again, if the conditions are the same. If now the situation is different, where now only one of them is a temporary exemption, then you don't need anything notarized because it's only one temporary exemption.
Okay. I'm going to jump in. One of the questions has to do with a landlord's collection of the RSO fees, which is the annual registration fees, and to recoup the SCEP fee, the Systematic Code Enforcement Program fee. Just to let everybody know, we do have information on our website. I'm going to be sharing a link to that shortly before we conclude. But the general rule is a landlord may collect at a monthly rate $3.61 for paid SCEP fees. That's $3.61 per month from the tenant for the SCEP fee. And then for the annual registration fee that the owner paid, they can recoup 50% of that fee from the tenant at a rate of $1.61 per month. So So $1.61 per month for the second fee. The prerequisite to that, the contingency on that, is that the owners have paid the fees and are in compliance with the ordinance and have already issued a 30-day advance written notice for the collection of those fees that you issued written notice to the tenant. So I hope that answers that question.
Thank you. Then I saw another constituent ask the following: what's the current amount for RSO and SCEP fees? For RSO, it's $38.75 per unit, and the SCEP fee is $43.32 per unit. We've got a few more questions here.
So I think we're pretty good on the poll. So I'm going to go ahead and move
Okay.
forward, allowing people to unmute themselves now. I would ask that everybody, be patient, wait your turn. If someone else is speaking, make sure you're not unmuting yourself and trying to butt in. So just that common courtesy. I'm going to go ahead and allow everybody.
Thank you.
Unmute now. Give me just a moment. All right. So now if you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask us.
Thank you, Natalie.
I have a question.
Yes.
I asked, after we do this whole process, can we immediately print the certificate?
Immediately, no.
No.
Because it used to be that we could do that, right?
Not in my recollection.
No.
Well, immediate is relative, but.
A couple of things have to get verified first, right? Number one, the payment has to go through. The Rent Registry folks do have to make sure that everything went through. Once everything goes through, it's typically a couple of days that you can go ahead and do the Rent Registry.
So do we wait until we get it they mail it to you, or we go back online and request it?
You could do either one, whatever one is best for you. I encourage people, if you're doing this online, I would check in a couple of days. If everything went through, you'll go ahead and be able to print that RSO certificate.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
I have a question. You mentioned that with credit card payment, there's no fee associated with with making a payment via credit card. We manage a few properties in Los Angeles, so the total amount may be quite a bit high. And then I also would like for you to explain the e-check option as well, too, please. Is that just going online, entering the routing number, account number, and process it that way, or how does that work? The e-check option you can go.
Sure. To answer your question about the e-check, it does ask for crucial information such as the routing number, the account number, the check number, the total, what property or properties it would apply for, right? One of the things when we see, like folks like yourself, sir, that have a multitude of different properties within the city boundaries, they want to utilize one payment method to pay for everything, right? You do have that option. But again, it's very important that you enter the correct information, because one of the items that it does do, the system will ask you twice to enter that routing number. The system will ask you twice to enter that account number, right?
And then you have to enter the check number too? You have to enter the check number too? Okay.
That's correct.
I have a
And as far as the credit card, as far as the credit card,
Yes.
you're saying that there's no fee associated with it? If we have an amount, let's say $100,000 or something like that, would that be okay? I'm surprised that there's no.
That's fine. The city does not charge additional funds for utilizing a different method that includes a credit card. Correct. There's no fee there.
Thank you.
Araceli and Henry, if we're already collecting RSO and the SCEP fees from 2020, can we continue with that, or do we have to give another notice?
That's a good question. And assuming it's your original tenancy, the same tenant from 2020.
Correct.
And so you've fulfilled the 30-day advance written notice requirement.
Right.
last year, and it goes on indefinitely still until today, until this year. So what that means for you is no need to issue a new 30-day notice to collect these fees. As long as you issued it accurately last year for 2020, and
Yes.
you're good in 2021 in terms of paying the full fees and completing the rent registry.
Thank you. And also the other thing
You're
is
welcome.
you mentioned about $3.61 and $1.61, and then Henry said something about $38. What's the difference?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're related. They're related. Henry, you start with a big amount, please.
Yes, ma'am. So the total annually for the RSO fee is $38.75.
Divide that by
The
12.
total, correct. The total for the SCEP fee, as we call it, is $43.32 per unit per year. So the amount that Araceli broke down is basically a division of those amounts that we mentioned, right? For the SCEP
Right.
fee, it's 100% can be passed on to that tenant. So 361 times 12 equals the 43.32, and one half of that 38.75, and $3 and what did you say, Araceli?
$3.61.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. So that's for you, for the owner to recoup 100%
Right.
of the SCEP fee that Henry mentioned.
Right.
And then the second fee that he mentioned is the annual registration fee. And the ordinance permits you to collect a maximum of 1.61 per month for that fee.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. And also for the
You're
seismic
welcome.
retrofit, when can we start collecting the tenants portion? You know,
When
we
can
had
you
to,
start?
yeah, we had to, the capital improvement, like the seismic, retrofit.
Oh, that's a different topic.
That's a different.
Okay.
That's different. Yeah.
I would have to bunt it to your case analyst, your
Okay.
assigned analyst. Yeah.
No, well, you know, they already told me that I can collect and I have the letter and ready to go, but it's just because of the pandemic,
Okay.
we cannot increase any rent or in any way at all. So,
Oh, I see.
yeah,
Because of the moratorium
that's-
she's referencing.
Right, and that's a really good question, and I encourage you to reach out to the case analyst,
okay.
and they should be able to explain to you if you're still on pause for that collection,
Yeah, because
or
I
if you
don't
can
know
move
what,
forward.
that's right, because I don't know what, you know, how many years I have to collect, you know? And
Exactly.
yeah.
I understand, and it's a good question. Unfortunately, right now, January, February, we're focused on registration.
Right.
That secondary topic you're bringing up, totally relevant. However, that workshop is later in the year. So right now, what I know you would have in your possession should be a telephone number or an email for the case analyst.
Right. Thank you. You guys are doing a great job.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Hi, I have a question.
Okay.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes.
Yes, we
We
can.
have a property that has like 3 different APN numbers, and we actually all were vacant. One of them we found out that was under RSO. So and this property we are building, so this was never rented or anything, but we keep on receiving this, and we already filed the documentation that that this is not a rental, and we signed all the documents, but I still received it. I still keep on receiving all these documents, so I
Well,
still have to fill it out.
It
the
is an
documentation?
annual bill that goes out. It is an annual bill. So every year you're going to get something.
But
now,
you know,
if you as a property, I'm sorry?
so we also combined. So they had 3 APN numbers, and at the last year, I think it was around October, they changed the APN to 1, but the
Okay.
documentation we received still on the old one.
Okay.
Well, there's a couple of things that happen there, ma'am. One of the things is the following. The county assessors, in order for them to combine a multitude of different parcel numbers into one, their requirements differ from what the housing department has. What I mean by that is the following. The county, once they issue a combined multitude of parcels into one, typically that means that the old parcel numbers are no longer valid, right? But that does not mean that you don't have to respond to whatever paperwork goes out. Keep in mind, the fact that they gave you a new parcel does not mean that the construction that you have on, because you have some type of construction, I would imagine, going on there, correct?
Right, but we also received from you, like HCIDLA, you know, we received that, you know, a letter that, you know, that we have to designate some for the low income. So we have all of this, but why do we still receive all of this stuff?
Until everything is finalized, ma'am, that's when, because at the current time, it doesn't sound like everything's finalized. Again, I don't know your information, so I'd be incorrect in saying this is what's going on. But from what it sounds like to me, what you're telling me, not everything has been finalized by the Department of Building and Safety. Once the Department of Building and Safety gives you the approvals and that
we got that
piece of property, that parcel. Okay, so I would probably suggest that you contact our hotline, and then we could go look a little more in detail to that particular account now, without, you know, looking at parcel numbers, things of that nature. I would just be speculating at this moment, unfortunately.
So I think, and then another one that
and same for me, Henry.
And so another property that we, and I know you mentioned that and one of the property also was on that we took it out of the rental, and it's almost 2 years, but we still cannot build. On that one, I didn't receive it. So does it mean that I still need to go and check with in a hotline that possibility they forgot to send it or something?
You can call.
It seems prudent.
Right.
I'm sorry?
I think, I was just trying to tell you that you sound prudent. Is it Luba? Am I saying your name right?
Yes.
Miss Luba, it sounds like what you are suggesting is a prudent thing to do. If you were to reach out to my staff with your APN at issue, we would look into it. Rather than speculate right now like Henry might be. I'm sure he's going through his outline in his head trying to figure out what are the possibilities.
I try to call. Your line is constantly busy. What is the
you have the option to leave your callback number. We always call people back. I'm actually looking at my hotline right now. That's why you guys kept on seeing me look to the side. My hotline right now is at 0 people. Because we make sure we call people back.
I'm going to call you. That's good.
It's already.
Okay, bye, Luba.
Thank you.
Talk tomorrow morning.
Thank you very much. Definitely. It was very informative. Thanks. Bye-bye.
You're welcome, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I was just kidding about the bye-bye. Anybody next?
I have a statement to make. Can I make a statement?
Of course.
Last year was the first year that they divided up. What do we collect on? It used to be that half of it, only half of it, we were able to collect from the tenant. Is it the SCEP or the RSO? The half.
The RSO.
Okay, the RSO. It used to be that you gave them 30-day notice and you were able to collect half of it. And that was very good. You got the whole half, the whole half, okay? Now, last year they changed it to dividing it up by 12. And most of us mom and pop owners who, you know, it was just too ridiculous to do that and collect, you know, just a couple of dollars every month. And I think that what do you know why they did that? Why did they stop us from collecting the half all at once? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about, and I don't know the procedural history or the motivation behind that, behind the city council vote.
I think the motivation was that that most landlords didn't want to bother to do that, and it was another bonus for the tenants, and another way for the mom and pop owners to be in a situation where we're just not going to collect this money that we should have been able to collect. I believe it's just to benefit the tenant.
Saffron, Ms. Saffron, do you know who your city council office is, where that is located? What district you're in?
What, I don't know offhand what district I'm in, no.
The only reason I'm asking is because that is something that you should voice emphatically to your council representative.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm only saying that because I know that that's the voice that you might have, because at now we can't retroactively influence the ordinance that passed last year.
Right.
And I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to look that up for you if you wanted me to. If you wanted to email my staff at the address that we provided in our presentation and make reference to this, I'd be happy to look it up for you and make sure you get that information in your hands.
Oh, thank you. What can you just repeat the email address?
Sure. It is HCIDLA. Rent Registry at lacity.org.
Thank you.
And then also for all the other landlords on the same topic, and this will also be beneficial to you, Ms. Saffron, is I'll put a link on this chat box for everybody to be able to look up their neighborhood government representatives. It's an easy city link that you should all have. And I'll share that with everyone shortly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
There was a gentleman that spoke. I have a.
Yes,
go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I mailed the rent registry and exemption form. I sent it by mail. I didn't do it online. It was like 2 weeks. It was like 2 weeks ago. And I went online to try to pay the annual bill, and the units billed are still the same, too. The exemption is not reflected yet. So how soon will the change be done?
You said you mailed it about 2 weeks ago?
Uh-huh.
It takes about that amount of time because there's about 60,000 exemptions that come in, right? So they're still being processed as we speak right now. So, I mean, you could definitely give us a call early next week to see where we're at as far as if the exemption went through, or as you mentioned, if you want to go ahead and check online if the dollar amount changed already.
Okay, so how long does it usually take you to change when it was mailed and not done online, the exemption request?
Well, people typically do both, whether it's paying online and exempting online, or they mail their payment along with their exemption via mail, right?
No,
it's rare when it's a combination of both, like how you did. I understood what you told me. From what I understand, what you told me is the following. You submitted your temporary exemption along with your rent registry. What you have outstanding is your payment, correct?
Yeah, I'm holding the payment because I want to pay it online.
Okay, then I can answer your question. How many units are on your property?
2.
And your total bill was $164.14?
164, yes.
Okay, so you exempted 1 unit, correct? So you owe a total of $82.07 is what you owe.
Yeah, but when I went online, the bill is still showing 164.14.
Correct, like I mentioned, the exemption hasn't been processed yet, that's why.
Okay, so should I wait another? When is the payment due? March 1?
The payments are due by March 1st.
Okay, so I can wait until the end of this month to see if the exemption has been reflected.
Absolutely. Please do me a favor, ma'am. There's our hotline number. Give us a call. You can speak to any of my staff, and we'll be more than happy to see where we're at with that exemption. If it's in our system, then they can process it while you're on the phone, if it's already in our system.
Is it 213-928-9150, your hotline?
That's Ms. Araceli's number. The number that you want to call us is at 877
877
614
614
6873.
Okay, I will repeat, 877-614-6873.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, I was referring to the lady that just on before about charging the $3.61. It makes landlords feel like we are nickel and diming them.
Right.
And I think that being able to charge the one-time charge at the whatever time, a one-time charge, $12.25 or whatever the case may be, is much more advantageous because it makes it look like that. Where, like I said, nickel and dime them. So I think if you guys could, somehow take that to the higher beings that, hey, go back to where it was. It's better to charge one time instead of, $3.61 a month. That's kind of like how I feel.
Well,
Okay.
I think you brought this up.
Yes, and for everyone in this moment, I am now typing in the web address for you all to be able to look up your neighborhood. You enter your address, and you can look up the local government for your neighborhood. So in this case, you would go to this web address, which is neighborhoodinfo.lacity.org, and then you would enter the address of the rental unit that you're talking about. So not your home address, but the address of your rental unit. And all of these concerns about how the ordinance should have been written and how the ordinance, your vision for how the ordinance should be played out, all of those are not falling on deaf ears in this workshop. We are listening, we hear you. It's just outside of our authority, outside of our jurisdiction. I do care, and I want you to be speaking about that topic to your local government reps. So this is where you go to find that out if you don't know it already.
Thank you.
And I promise you, I will bring it up also to my chain of command.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Henry, go for it.
Yeah, so what Araceli brought up a very good point. One of the things that we can both voice our opinions, right? Araceli and I and other managers within the department. But at the end of the day, city council and the mayor's office are the ones that ultimately put the laws into place. So please reach out to your local council deputies, right? And express your concerns like you folks mentioned right now. Please do so. I highly encourage you to do so.
Right. And all I can do right now too is encourage you to assert your rights. You have the right to request that fee, albeit it may feel minimal when it's a monthly fee instead of a bulk fee. And albeit I hear that you have a concern about you feel like you're nickel and diming your tenants. And, I understand and I respect how you feel, but at the end of the day, this is your business. And just talking black and white, you do have that right to request that money.
The other thing is this, keep in mind that those amounts that we just mentioned right now are also noted on that RSO certificate. So if you get a tenant, right, because I get calls from property owners that will tell me the following: Henry, my tenant is now saying, how am I trying to collect $3.61 per month? But if I'm nickel and diming them, that's a good word that you utilize, right? That's a word that a lot of our callers use, right? And I tell them, did you give your tenant a copy of that RSO certificate? No. Please do so. There's a lot of information there that is beneficial to the landlord and to that tenant. And they'll see that this landlord is actually following the law. He or she's registered. He or she did their rent registry and they made their payment. So it's in writing, right?
Right. Thank you for that, Henry. And we just want to make sure we're coming up on about 5 minutes left, and we want to give you an opportunity to ask more questions.
I'll say this, very informative. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Is it Mr. Michael?
I have a question.
question.
Okay, I heard two voices, a male and a female indicating they have questions, and I'm all ears.
Male, go first.
All right, Mel's here. Hey, hi, my name is Billy, and I was calling because I was
Hello,
actually, this is my first
Hello.
time actually going through this whole process after I got like a hefty fine from you guys.
Oh.
So
Oh,
what is
no.
the purpose of this fee, and what is the purpose of registering the properties?
I'll go ahead and start with the, it's
I figured
a
if I
requirement
paid
that-
over like $1,000 for like a single duplex at one point, like on fees alone, like I just wanted to know where it was going, or what do I have available through this?
Well, it depends on what type of fee was unfortunately assessed at delinquent amount. If it was an annual bill, it doesn't sound like it because you're saying $1,000. That more or less seems to be for a service rendered.
It was more like I didn't pay for like 3 years because I didn't know you guys existed and I required to pay for this.
Oh, okay, okay. So the mandatory fees, the annual fees as we call them, are designated for rental income properties. If you do demand or collect rent on that property, you are required to register. One of the things that I have heard from a couple of our constituents is the following. I didn't know you guys existed, right? Keep in mind, the city actually sends a multitude of different notifications. Right now, with the whole accessory dwelling unit era that we're living in, right? That's a whole new introduction of property owners that are coming into the city now, right?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
The,
but
the
like
department is sending.
of why I didn't get the
sending out
letter is
notices so
fine,
we can
but
get
it's
one
more like, what is the purpose of it? I guess it's fine. Like I'm not like trying to fight my fees from the past. I'm just trying to get an understanding what is the purpose of them. And
Okay, you're being
why do I have to register?
inquisitive.
Yeah, like I already I
Okay.
paid I came to terms with the fees.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay. And Billy, not because I don't care, but let me just make sure we get the other question in.
Yeah.
If the female
From
would feel
Holly, I
comfortable
believe?
talking still.
Here I am. Quick
Hello.
question.
Holly.
Yes,
Okay.
that's me. Thank you. I got my bill in the mail. It's great. I literally think it would be almost faster for me to just throw it in the mail, but I can't find my envelope. Is that a problem?
Now, are you going to pay 100% or are you exempting?
No, 100%. I just want to throw the fee in the mail and be done.
Got it. Let me get that PO box number for you if you bear with me for a minute.
Okay. Well, I think I have it, but I mean, it's on the bill, right?
It is. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
That's where you would mail it to.
If I fill that out and have the PO box on there, it's not going to get thrown in the trash. It's going to be seen by somebody.
Not at all, ma'am. No. It actually goes to a bank that the city contracts with. They're the ones that handle all our payments.
Okay.
So no, I assure you that we're not throwing any money away.
Okay. And you mentioned the ADU. I fall into that category. We have a property that has a single family home on it. And then in fact, we recently purchased this and it has an ADU.
Okay.
I am only being, per my bill, I'm being billed for the SCEP for 2 units, but the RSO only applies to 1. Does that sound correct to you?
I would imagine it's a detached structure. So the
Yes.
ADU is separate
Yes.
from that's why.
Okay.
The only time that it's actually potentially subject to rent control is when it's attached. And
Okay.
the situation is detached. Yeah.
Okay.
So the bill sounds accurate.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
You're welcome. Any time for one more, Araceli?
We do. It's 4:28, and I'm just saying that so that people are aware of the time. If you have any commitments to get to at 4:30, but yes, we have time for another question.
Anyone out there want to ask a question?
It sounds like everybody's doing fantastic.
Wait,
They
so
are.
do I get the answer to my question, or how does that work?
We can get back to you later, maybe
Okay.
outside of the presentation, because
That's fine.
that's not.
I don't want to take
It's
up too
just
much
not
time
part of
from-
it. No, it's not about that. I think you're asking more of an inquisitive question. That's just, I know the topic is not covered in my presentation.
Okay, that's fine.
Or mine.
Can I just step in?
Yeah.
Billy, if you want to call our rent stabilization hotline number,
Mhm.
did list it in the chat a couple times.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Representatives that work on the hotline specifically for rent stabilization to kind of explain how rent stabilization benefits you, about the program and regulations. So I would really encourage you to give us a call and speak to one of our representatives.
Okay, sounds good.
You know,
Thank you.
oh, you know, there's a mistake on the phone number for the rent stabilization. It says 86-557. There's a missing digit.
Oh, you're right. It's 866, right?
Oh, okay, great.
I do
Yeah.
apologize. For that.
Who was that? Good catch.
Yeah, I pasted and copied it on Word so that I could print it all out, you know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much for the presentation.
Yes, of course.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you
Thank you
guys.
so much for attending.
Thank you, everyone, and good luck. Happy 2021.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
and get your shots.
The video, the
Yes,
recording
yes.
is available. It's gonna be emailed out, or how is this?
I'm going to defer to Natalie.
Yes, the recording
It's a
will
Natalie question.
the recording will actually be available on our website, which I also included in the chat. Just to reiterate, it's hcidla.lacity.org. It will be posted on our website for easy access and viewing. Not immediately, but it will be posted shortly for you guys to access.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
So thank you to everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.